30 minutes past 9. I welcome you to another exciting edition of From the Newspaper this morning, streaming live from the premises of GSC's Hotel, Akpete, IBADAN. This is MFM Radio and TV, where we set the agenda and project the truth. Don't forget you can watch us live on Facebook. We are the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja, the commercial city of Lagos, and the vibrant city of IBADAN. Where the second segment on this show is the headlines, make a round of Nigerian newspaper, and as usual, always bring 4 newspapers to you every morning. The Punch newspaper, the Vanguard newspaper, the Guardian newspaper, and the Nigerian Tribune. Where the last segment on the show is the details to the headlines. My name is Shaqeeroh Akinyemi. So moving on to the first segment of the show this morning, which is the weather forecast report. And the first city I'll bring in on this morning is the Federal Capital Territory, Abuja. At 10 a.m. in Abuja this morning, it's cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius. At 11 a.m. it's cloudy with 31 degrees Celsius. At 12 p.m. it's cloudy with 33 degrees. At 9 a.m. in Ibadan this morning, it's cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 10 a.m. it's cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius. At 11 a.m. it's cloudy with 31 degrees Celsius. At 12 p.m. is cloudy with 33 degrees Celsius. At 11 p.m. is cloudy with 34 degrees Celsius. At 2 p.m. is thunderstorm with 35 degrees Celsius. At 3 p.m. is thunderstorm with 35 degrees Celsius. At 4 p.m. is cloudy with 36 degrees Celsius. At 5 p.m. is cloudy with 34 degrees Celsius. At 6 p.m. is cloudy with 33 degrees Celsius. At 7 p.m. is cloudy with 31 degrees Celsius. At 8 p.m. is cloudy with 30 degrees Celsius. At 9 p.m. is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 10 p.m. is cloudy with 28 degrees Celsius. At 11 p.m. is cloudy with 27 degrees Celsius.
Audio Jungle.
So moving on to the second segment on the show this morning, which is the headlines make round of Nigerian newspaper. And the first newspaper we're bringing on this morning is the Punch newspaper. And the lead story on the Punch newspaper this morning says 20 governors under fire for delaying 70,000 minimum wage. And page 2 has the details to that story. And there is one writer to the story that says local government workers, teachers in Zamfara, Cross River, Abia, others CS to get minimum wage, and page 2 has the analysis to that story. And above the line of Punch newspaper this morning says Tinubu, Obasanjo, Makinde months as ex-Oyo governors. Olunloyo dies at 89, and page 12 has the details to that story. On the Punch newspaper says police commands brace as fresh nationwide protest, and page 2 has the details to that story. Supreme Court judgment, Abure first Labour Party HQ takeover by NLC, and page 16 has the details to that story. Punch newspaper, another story says 2027 coalition pushes for single-term candidates, and page 8 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Nigeria's debt serving rises 68% to 13 trillion naira, and page 31 has the details to that story. story on the Punch newspaper this morning says 15 injured in Lagos gas explosion, and page 5 has the details to that story.
Jungle.
And the last story on the Punch newspaper this morning says why Trump tariff is bad for Nigeria export, says federal government, and page 31 has the analysis to that story. To the Vanguard newspaper, and the latest story on the Vanguard newspaper this morning says ancestry as police organizer differ, and page 5 has the details to that story. And there are a lot of riders to that story. The first rider says why we are leading protest, says TIB Sore. Another rider says demand repeal of cybercrime act. What government institution restored in Rivers State? NLC, JAF, order back protest. Authorities must uphold human rights ahead of planned protest. Police beef to security around strategic location installation in Lagos, and page 5 has the details to that stories. Vanguard newspaper. Another story on the Vanguard newspaper says police withdraw invitation letter to Emir Sanusi, and page 8 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Plateau attack Junior Sidra, and page 13 has the details to that story. Story on the Vanguard newspaper this morning says Trump tariff over 50 countries ready to negotiate, says US official, and page 9 has the details to that story. There is one rider to the story that says thousands march against Trump in US, and page 13 has the details to that story. Story on the Vanguard newspaper says Umahi to Sanwo-Olu close Eko Kasau Bridge, waterway, and page 10 has the details to that story. Ikwezu Ugwanyi, Shelson.
Audio Jungle.
No respect for textile industry as domestic.
Audio Jungle.
Another story says Tinubu, SGF, other months as ex-Oyo governors. Olunloyo dies at 89, and page 10 has the details to that story. Alright, so moving on to the Guardian newspaper, and the latest story on the Guardian newspaper this morning says one fiscal year, 2 budgets per governance concerns in River, and page 6 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle.
Guardian newspaper this morning says, Adeleke wants Osun monarchy against controversial utterance, fighting publicly, and page 7 has the details to that story. Still on Guardian newspaper, police withdraws Sanusi Abuja invitation to kill monarchy in Kano, and page 30 has the details to that story. Emergency responder, 16 other dies in Ogun multiple auto crash, and page 6 has the details to that story. Tinubu Sultan governors, Afenifere other months, Oluloyo, and page 7 has the details to that story. On the Guardian newspaper says, I chose not to challenge flawed system, says Akpata as PDP appeal Edo ruling, and page 29 has the details to that story. On Nigerian Tribune this morning says, Nigerian airport airline grapple with financial woes, and page 6 has the details to that story. Tariff, Nigeria in consultation with US, WTO says federal government, and page 6 and 15 has the details to that story. And there are 3 riders to that story. The first rider says tariff may impact competitiveness of Nigeria goods. Chief planned protest, police warn organizers, and page 26 has the details to that story. Nigerian Tribune says, Tinubu Obasanjo Makinde order pay tribute as Oluloyo dies at 89, and page 23 has the details to that story.
Audio Jungle. And the last story on Nigerian Tribune this morning says, Salah incident, IGP withdraw letters inviting Emir Sanusi to force headquarters, and page 26 have the details to that story. Alright, so we have come to the end of the second segment on the show this morning. Before we divert into the last segment, let's go on a break. Stay tuned, I'll be right back.
MFM TV, MFM lórí Instagram, lórí Facebook, ìdíkẹ́ mọ́ gbọ́ òjò mọ́ mi. Ẹ wá wo ìṣẹ́nu ọ̀pánámá, ẹ wá wo rẹ̀ ti ṣe láwùjọ òjò. Gbogbo ìkànnà gbé wá bẹ̀, gbogbo eré ládùn-ládùn, gbogbo tó lóyún, tó bá ronú, tó pàrònú tì. MFM TV, oníkan mọ́ gbọ́, olólùfẹ́ mi, ẹ̀yọ́ rẹ̀ wá, ọkọ, sọ fún ìyàwó rẹ̀. MFM TV oníkẹ́mọ́ gbọ́ ẹ̀míkẹ́mọ́ gbọ́ jọ̀mọ́ mi MFM TV.
MFM rédíò and tẹlifíṣàn ìkànnì tó jáléjáko ni gbogbo yín ẹ máa gbọ́ ìròyìn tó kù ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ọgbà gbogbo ìránnilétí àṣà àdáyébá ní AM/FM ló wà. Ẹ̀jẹ̀ àmọ́ gbọ́ orúkọ tèmi ní olóyè Adérẹ̀mí Adédèjì Ọlọ́fààná mọ́ǹtì ọbàjẹ́ ti ìlú Ẹdẹ.
Odò bó jẹ́ tìròyìn tó pójú owó, orin tó dùn ún gbọ́ létí, àṣà, ẹ̀fẹ̀ àtàwọn ọ̀rọ̀ ìṣítí lọ́lọ́kanjọ̀kan. Ìkànnì AM/FM rédíò ọba ló jẹ́ láwùjọ rédíò.
Nationwide protest. The police authorities have placed their men to read alerts ahead of the fresh nationwide protest started for Monday today by the Take It Back movement and other civil service society groups. The Nigeria Police Force said it had a deployed in personal and strategic location while warning protesters to shelve the planned demonstration, which was meant to protest the worsening hardship in the country, clamp down on civil liabilities, and the crisis in Rivers State. The State Police Command in separate interview with the Punch and highlighted the steps being taken to ensure that the rally did not degenerate into violence. However, the national coordinator of the Take It Back movement, Juwon Sanyolu, said the protest equally aimed to confront issues surrounding the misuse of the Cybercrime Act, stating that the group would not back down on the rally. The civil disobedience comes with 9 months after the End Bad Governance protests, which were held last August to protest the high cost of living in the country. In Abuja, the organizers said they would converge at the National Assembly. Speaking in the interview on Sunday, Sanwo-Olu stressed that the organizers have prepared for many reasons to security agencies. He added the mobilization effort has shown a growing wave of public frustration. But the NPF advised the organizer to suspend their plan, describing the protest as ill-timed and mischievous. Adejobi noted that the declaration of April 7 as the National Police Day aligned with the international best practice, where nationals dedicate a day to honor their police institution. The police advised the organizer to reconsider their plans and opt for the constructive channel for engagement with the appropriate authorities. The police urged the organizer and the individual who intended to join the protest to pursue dialogue by engaging the proper institution of government to press home and demand. Victor Olajifoji, one of the coordinators to Take It Back movement in Osun State, said the protest against the bad governance and suppression of free speech would hold in the state. Lijobi rejected the police advice to shelve the demonstration, saying that the protest was not about the security organization. In the readiness for the protest in Lagos State Police Command has placed the Commander Yola Counter-Terrorism Unit Base 14 Anti-Bomb Disposal Unit Yola Central MTD, Yola, as well as the all divisional police headquarters across the state. The commander appealed to residents to remain calm about their unlawful business and report any suspicious movements or activities in their neighborhood to the police, and the details of the news is on Punch newspaper.
Audio Jungle.
Says no to Charles. Northern Youth with its own planned nationwide protest. The Northern Youth Council of Nigeria has distanced itself from the planned nationwide protest tagged Take It Back, warning that such demonstration could inflame tension and destabilize the country. Supreme Court judgment, Abure fears Labour Party HQ takeover by NLC. The battle for the control of Labour Party took a fresh twist on Sunday as Julius Abure leadership invited a team of policemen and private operatives to mount surveillance at the entrance of the party headquarters in Abuja, following a decision of the Court of Appeal in Abuja, which earlier recognized Abure's leadership. The apex court in decision emphasized that the matter relating the party leader and internal affairs, over which the judiciary has no jurisdiction. Further, the court also observed that, based on the submission before it, Abure's tenure had already expired. Consequently, it is media across the field by Abure fraction and Labour Party. While the media was aware of the news, with Abure has been sacked by the apex court, IFO held the judgment, clarifying that they validated their earlier position that the political matters are strictly internal.
Audio Jungle.
Another news says that why Trump tariff is bad for Nigeria export, says federal government. The federal government has acknowledged that the several of Nigeria oil and non-oil exports set to face diverse effect due to the newly imposed tariff by U.S. President Donald Trump in the U.S., one of the key markets. According to the ministers, Nigeria exports to the United States have averaged $5 to $6 billion annually in the last 2 years. The amount made during the Make American Wealthy Again event in the Rose Garden, marked by dramatic shifted from the decades of free trade audacity, with the unimpaired global economy since World War II. Responding to the development, the minister noted that the new tariff on key categories would negotiatively affect the competitiveness of Nigerian goods in the U.S. market and destabilize business in the non-oil sector, affecting the both price competitiveness and market access. And the details of the news is on Punch newspaper.
Audio Jungle. Audio Jungle.
2027 coalition pushes for single-term candidates. As the coalition takes talks to challenge President Bola Tinubu in the 2027 election gain traction, northern stakeholders are pushing for certain aspirants to commit a single-term agreement. A source involved in the coalition negotiation who requested anonymity due to the lack of authorization to speak on the issue told the Punch that northern stakeholders are urging the former Vice President Atiku Abubakar not to run. The source added the most stakeholders believing that if all coalition leaders unite behind the southern candidate, President Tinubu can be defeated. On March 20, the 2023 presidential candidates of the People Democratic Party, Atiku, Labour Party, Peter Obi, and former Kaduna State Governor Nasir El-Rufai announced the formation of the coalition aimed at removing President Tinubu in 2027. The debate about whether opposition parties should be united to challenge President Tinubu's administration has been intensifying, with the various political figures sharing different opinions. Former Vice President Atiku has been a strong advocate for opposition units, emphasizing the importance of the collaboration. On March 8, he revealed his efforts to unite opposition groups and form a coalition to oust the APC. Following El-Rufai's shift from the APC to the Social Democratic Party on March 10, discussion among the opposition leaders gained significant moments. Atiku and the other opposition figure declared that the March 20 meeting marked the official launch of the coalition. It was previously reported by the Sunday Punch on March 23 that the negotiation among the political leaders had been delayed due to former Vice President Atiku Abubakar ambitions and the zoning dispute. The source mentioned that the stakeholders have multiple options to resolve all concerns. It stated there are numerous concerns among all stakeholders involved in coalition negotiation, with the North and South issue being the primary concern. These issues are emerging, but were committed to addressing them. As they arise, they condemning the many Nigerians who are fed up with the APC's maladministration. Our goals is to endure the fair process that represents the interests of the people and strengthen the unity of the coalition. When read of comment, the National Secretary of the Coalition of United Political Parties, Peter Ahmed, confirmed that the proposal of the certain aspirant to sign a single-term agreement along with the other opinion is under consideration, as the opposition force against President Tinubu are greater than those faced by the former President Goodluck Jonathan into a single-term agreement, calling it premature. In an interview with The Punch, Osadolo urged the coalition stakeholders to keep the opportunity open for capable Nigerians, and the details of the news is on Punch newspaper. So from here, let's go on a short break. Stay tuned, I'll be right back.
Audio Jungle.
tán iléeṣẹ́ Star Mike Multimedia Concept tó ń jẹ fẹ́fẹ́ tó gbà wò níbi ká máa ṣe àwọn ohun ẹ̀rù lọ́kànjọ̀kan bíi àwọn ohun amúnúléwu ìgbódùn ń wò bíi frame throw pillow customized wardrobe mọ́ọ̀gì tó ṣe kò tí ì gbóná láti fi jókè ẹ̀ náà rẹ́yìn towel customized cap t-shirt pen àti àwọn iṣẹ́ printing mìíràn lọ́lọ́kanjọ̀kan iléeṣẹ́ Star Mike Multimedia Concept ló wà ní ojú ọjà Mọ́kọ́lá ní ìlú Ìbàdàn ẹ lè rìn wá sórí 08071486599 08131931183 tàbí ẹ kàn sí wọn lójú òpó ìkànnì ìbánidọ́rẹ̀ẹ́ ti Facebook ọ̀pádòkun Samuel lórí Instagram @ostarmike àti lójú òpó X @ostarmike. Star Mike Multimedia Concept àgbèrò rẹ̀ ṣíṣe dọwọ́ tiwa.
gan ni ẹ bá wọn dòwò pọ̀ kẹ́ lè jàǹfààní wọn ni èmi èjìrí ọ̀kí ló ń kéde léyìí sí gbogbo etí ọmọ aráyé pátápátá ẹ jẹ́ bá AM FM dòwò pọ̀ ká lè sọ.
Alright, so welcome back to the show. It's still from the newspaper. Another story says Nigerian debt servicing rises 68% to 13 trillion naira. Nigeria spent a total of 13.12 trillion naira on debt servicing in 2024, representing a 68% increase from the 7.8 trillion naira recorded in the previous year, according to the analysis of the fresh data from the Debt Management Office. The Punch observed that the debt servicing cost recorded in 2024 surpassed the budget allocation of 12.3 trillion naira for the year. The higher the expected expenditure highlighted the increasing pressure of debt obligation on the national fiscal sustainability. For the 2025 budget, the federal government has earmarked 16 trillion naira for debt servicing, reflecting the government's anticipation of the continued debt-related expenses. This development comes amid rising borrowing costs and an increasing debt burden, putting pressure on the country's fiscal position. The Punch learned that the domestic debt servicing cost for 2024 stood at 5.97 trillion naira, reflecting a 14.15% rise from the 5.28 trillion naira recorded in 2023. The significant increase is attributed to higher interest rates and increased domestic borrowing. On the external front, Nigeria spent $4.66 billion, equivalent to $7.5 million denominated debt more expensive to service. The house broke down compared to 4.78 trillion naira in 2023. They present a significant increase, about 1.59 trillion, highlighted the growing burden of debt servicing on country fiscal position. Data from Debt Management Office showed that the bulk of the domestic debt service in 2024 was attributed to the federal government bonds, which accounted for 4.69 trillion naira, representing about 78.59% of the total debt service. This marked the increase from 3.66 trillion in 2023, indicating a rise about 1.03 trillion naira, or 28.2%. The dominance of FGN bonds in the domestic debt service provide highlighted the government's resilience on the long-term debt instruments to finance the budgetary obligation. Nigeria Treasury bills contributed 747.15 billion naira to the total domestic debt service in 2024, compared to 326.12 billion naira in 2023. This presents an increase of about 129%, signifying a substantial rise in the interest burden from the short-term borrowing instrument. Other notable contributions to the debt service, including the federal government saving bond and FGN Sunks bond, which recorded interest payments of 6.38 billion and rental of 158.43 billion naira, respectively. The FGN Green Bond recorded a debt service of 2.18 billion naira, consistent with the previous year. Promissory and principal repayments also grew significantly, with a 265.86 billion recorded in 2024 compared to 277.16 billion in 2023. This represents a marginal decline of 4.08%, indicating a reduction in the redemption of the promissory notes. Domestic bondholder emerged the biggest beneficiary of debt servicing payments, reflecting the government's commitment to honoring obligations on its long-term security. Analysis by The Punch further showed that Nigerian external debt service for the 2024 rose significantly to $4.66 billion, compared to $3.50 billion in 2023. This represents a year-on-year increase of approximately 33%, or 1.16 billion naira, increase in reflecting a rising debt burden and Nigeria's ongoing effort to manage the external obligation. Data from debt management officials that the bulk of the external debt service in 2024 was paid to commercial creditors with a total of $1.47 billion. This category includes Eurobond, which alone accounted for $1.15 billion, representing about 78.5% of the total commercial debt service. This second largest category of multilateral creditor, amounting to $2.62 billion. The largest chunk within the category went to International Monetary Fund, which will receive $1.63 billion, representing about 62.2% of the total multilateral debt service. The International Development Association of the World Bank followed, with payment totaling $663.23 million. Other multilateral creditors, including the African Development Bank and International Bank for Reconstruction and Development of World Bank, and featured prominently. Bilateral creditors were the third largest group, with a total debt of $517.67 million. The Exim Bank of China received the most on the category, amounting to $362.60 million, representing about 63.5% of the bilateral payments. About bilateral creditors include France against France's Development with $66.45 million, and Germany Credit Center for Canada with $35.91 million. The analysis of the year-on-year movement revealed that the commercial debt service payments surged by 23.7% from $1.93 billion in 2023 to $1.47 billion. Bilateral debt service, however, saw a more substantial increase of 112.4% from $1.23 billion in 2023 to $2.62 billion in 2024. Bilateral debt service remained relatively stable, increasing marginal from $344.57 million in 2023 to $517.67 million in 2024. And the details of the news is on Punch newspaper. Story on the show this morning says how Bobrisky smuggled ATM card into Kirikiri, paid 35 million naira to live large, says Kirikiri Ballet. Fresh controversy has tailed the recent insacration of the popular cross-dresser Idris Okuneye, also known as Bobrisky, as a traditional ruler in Lagos, has accused the official of Nigerian Correctional Service of aiding the socialite's alleged bribery scheme to secure VIP treatment during his stay in prison. The Baale of Kirikiri Town, Chief Babalola Shabi, popularly called Baale No Nonsense, alleged that the Bobrisky smuggled 8 automated teller machine card into Kirikiri custodial facility to use them to funnel a total of 35 million naira through point of sale operator in Hera, reportedly to grace the palm of prison official for provincial treatment. Shabi made the revelation during the town hall meeting organized by the Lagos State Police Command on Saturday as part of events marking the National Police Week. According to him, the cross-dresser never fully served the state behind the bars